I'd like to ask you guys another question, because we all agree that energy efficiency is a low-hanging fruit in the whole energy transformation business. But the real problem we have in Germany, and I think it's similar in California, is what kind of ideas do we have to incentivize increasing energy efficiency? Because the challenge for the homeowners is always the same. You have a pretty sizable upfront load, and you can calculate, yes, within 10 years it will be very profitable. What kind of measures do you think about or have in place to incentivize increased energy efficiency?
Well, there's two classic areas where there are market failures. One of those is in new construction, where the builder doesn't see the cost and is just as happy putting in the cheap refrigerator or air conditioner as opposed to the efficient one or the efficient LED. So that's why we've had building standards since '78. You know, you have to have, well, you have that split incentives, you don't have a chance. Now, the other big area is in rented space. Again, you know, the landlord, the tenant, you know, see totally different incentives, and that's where we have been struggling for at least 30 years on how do we get deep retrofits in sort of our rented space, both commercial and residential. So, I mean, we have we've been asked, the Energy Commission have been asked to come up with a plan. We're working on it. That's going to include elements of disclosure so that when you're renting, you have an idea of what the energy use could be, or when basically a financial institution is underwriting the cost, they have an idea of what the operating cost is, how that might affect the value of the house you could buy, taking into account not just your income, but also what the what the cost of operating the house. But I think ultimately we're going to need some sort of requirement that at time of sale, that someone goes in and does a very deep retrofit on that facility so that we're really dealing with the rented space. But I mean, again, we're struggling. I mean, we are spending over $1 billion a year on utility incentive programs. But again, where there are basic market failures, you know, even with those incentive programs, you don't have a chance, really.
David?
The one thing I would add to that, that is new, as of about a month ago, we have a new program that's going to enable property-assessed clean energy, which is a way to have energy efficiency upgrades be paid for through your property taxes. So, like if you move to California and you buy a house, you can get your energy efficiency upgrade, and it's not a loan to you, it's attached to the house. So if you move, it stays with the house and not with you. So there's very low risk, and you can finance it over 15 years. This was not a new idea. This has been around for 4 or 5 years, but there was a holdup at the federal level. We've just essentially solved that problem with a loan loss reserve program. So we're very optimistic about that. 2 counties in California have been actually ahead of the rest of the state and have implemented this, Sonoma and Western Riverside. And between the 2 of them, they've now done 10,000 homes this way in the last 18 months, and there have been 0 defaults. And so I think this is going to be a very exciting area of growth. 160 cities in California now signed up to do this program. So this is, I think, will be, in addition to the standards that the chairman mentioned and to the $1 billion we're spending to retrofit existing, this is going to be a new thing, this PACE program.
You know, I think broadly, when you're trying to change consumer behavior, you have 3 broad sets of tools. You have legal persuasion, economic persuasion, and moral persuasion. And my colleagues have touched upon some of the legal and economic tools that we have, including standards and price signals. But I don't want us to forget about the moral persuasion as well, especially as we're trying to tackle some of the less low-hanging fruit. And so where we've seen significant energy efficiency from companies, it's companies stepping up and saying, we want to be leaders, we want to demonstrate. And I think that Germany, my sense is that there is a serious support of environmental initiatives here. And let's not forget to tap into that, because we're going to need folks to want to take the time to figure out the most cost-effective measures to take.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. Let's not forget, when we all wanted to phase out cigarette smoking, the most powerful measure was that it became socially unacceptable to be a smoker, right? Before, everybody felt cool with a cigarette, and suddenly people said, oh, this poor fellow or this poor lady, she is still hanging on the cigarette, you know? So this is exactly what we should achieve in energy efficiency, you know? I was thinking, but I guess it's not possible, if we would put labels on each house, whether it is red, green, or yellow, you know, that would force people not to be the bad guy in the block and sometime retrofit. Of course, California, in comparison to Germany, has a big advantage in this respect because you have a much higher turnover rate of ownership and of building of houses. In Germany, you know, we have lots of houses which were built in 1905, and sometimes you still have family living in it through many generations from the beginning, and therefore it's not so easy to use the moment of sale or to use the moment of building new houses to introduce it, and therefore this is really as well our problem very much.